Welcome to the Mindset for Runners podcast, helping you to access and unlock your true potential as an athlete.
Hey, it's Rob and welcome to this episode of the podcast. This is going to be one for you to learn from a case study, just like my recent podcast on my lessons from the Human Hovel 100 miler. This is all of the lessons and takeaways I got when I was lucky enough to team up with the amazing Brent Ford and do the commentary for Kosci 2024. Now, if you've never heard of Kosciuszko, quite simply, it's a 240 kilometre mainly road race from the beach on the far south coast of New South Wales, Australia. It goes all the way to the top of Mount Kosciuszko and then returns to the car park to finish in Charlotte Pass. Now, if you've never been familiar with it, it's one of Australia's most iconic races, and I'm going to be talking about the lessons that I got from viewing the racing, the crewing, the race directors, how the whole race went. Incidentally, we're going to pause right here and say hi to all our listeners in Singapore and Ireland. I learnt last week that this podcast hit number 1 in Singapore for the running podcast, which is pretty cool. So hi to all the Singapore listeners, and also we hit number 3 in Ireland 2 weeks ago. So g'day to all our listeners in Ireland. I've been in contact with a few of you, and it's really awesome to get your messages. Thanks for tuning in, and mainly thanks for finding this podcast valuable enough that it's got to that level in the charts. Right, so in no particular order, here's a whole bunch of stuff that I wanted to share with you, whether you're doing an ultra or any kind of racing at all. Most of these things will be pertinent to your any distance race, but a lot of them will just be about ultras, for example, crewing and all that kind of stuff. Let's get straight into it. In no particular order, I'm just going to talk about what I saw. Number 1, you don't have to go into a race to try and win it or do a PB. Now, I'm going to use Margie Hadley as an example here. Margie was the recent winner of this race and many other races she goes in. 2023, she dominated the race, led from start to finish, winning the race. This year, she hadn't had the lead up that she wanted to. She hadn't trained as well. She had a whole bunch of stuff going on. Yet she still came to Kosci, not to defend a title, not to try and do a PB. Incidentally, she did beat her time by an hour, but that wasn't why she was there. She was there because she loved the race, she loved the crew, she loved the community, she loved the race directors and the race culture that they've created and continued to create from its inception, Kosci's inception. And Margie came to be a part of that. Even though the pressure could have been on to defend, to be better and all that kind of stuff, she came because she loves the race. And right throughout the race, I was lucky enough to see Margie, her massive smile, the enjoyment she had, and her expressing her gratitude for being able to be back in the race. She came all the way from Western Australia again to compete. And that just goes to show, even at the elite level, which Margie definitely is, you don't have to try and win every race. It's okay just to go there to have a good time. So awesome. Thank you, Margie, for teaching me that lesson over that weekend. Now, let's flip that coin over and have a look at the amazing Robert Ormsby. Robert came out of nowhere. No one had really heard from him. We knew he was a bit beast of a triathlete, but we didn't really know much about him from an ultra perspective. And he went out with the leaders and he went for it. Robert Ormsby led the race through 50 kilometres, through 100 kilometres, through 149 kilometres until all the way until Perisher Valley, all the way until Jindabyne, the 185 kilometre mark from memory, where he was passed. Now, Robert went for it. Watching his race was inspirational for me. Brent and I would drive through the field, commentating the race, how the race was unfolding. Robert was 6 kilometres ahead of second place. Then he extended to 7 kilometres. He was going after the race that he wanted. And this is another way that you can approach a race. If you've always thought that you were capable of more, if you've always had a feeling, and I had this, that your best race is still to come, there has to be a day where you go for it. And this is what was inspiring about Robert Ormsby. Nick Bamford is another runner who runs like this. He goes for it, right? He knows he's capable and he has a crack. Robert Ormsby left nothing on the table in Coast to Kosci 2024, and he inspired, I'm pretty sure, everybody out there. And even when things went bad for him after that 150 kilometre, 160 kilometre mark, he held on and he toughed it out to the finish, and he got even more respect from the runners, volunteers and everyone on the course. So the lesson for you is, if you never go for it, you will never know what you're capable of. And it's not to say you do it all the time or be reckless about it, but choose a time when you are going to explore your potential and do everything you can to reach it. And that includes nutrition, mindset, pacing, getting a good coach to do up the plan that's going to help you reach your potential. And I'm going to say to you, invest in yourself. Go for it. There's this great quote by the adventurer Audrey Sutherland. She wrote a great book called Paddle Your Own Canoe. And she said, what we regret most aren't the errors we make, it's the things we didn't do. And I just want to say that pick a race where it's going to be okay for you if you fail, if you go for it and you fail. Because you've got to explore what you're capable of, otherwise you'll never know. And there's nothing worse than getting to the end of your running career, whenever that may be. It might be in 50 years or it might be tomorrow, right? We're never going to know. But you want to know that you went for it and you explored what you're capable of. All right, so thanks for Robert. And also others who went for it and really had their day, had their crack. All right, next thing. Exploring your beliefs about what you think you're capable of and what you think maybe is possible in running. Let's have a look at how this race unfolded. Costa Kosciuszko has always been won by men, as in the males always got the first overall place. This year was so exciting for so many different reasons. We had Robert Ormsby leading by so far. We had Benny Kubra running just the most brilliant, smart race. And around between Ben and Robert Ormsby, we had Ali Caripio and the amazing Cassie Cohen, those two women fighting it out with the top men. So much so, see if you can picture this. They went through Charlotte Pass, 222 kilometre point of a 240 race. And the top three, which were Ali Caripio, Cassie Cohen and Ben Kubra, were all within 2 minutes of each other. Now, that is incredible, just in any race at all, let alone the fact that the two women were in the top three and Cassie had been leading for a while before Ali overtook and then Ben overtook again. It was leapfrogging these three. Cassie and Ali pushed Ben all the way to the summit of Kosciuszko, so you go 9 kilometres up and you come back. And Ben Kubra had to find everything he had to hold them off, winning by a narrow margin. My watch had it at 1 minute and 44 seconds. I'm not sure what the official time ended up being, but it was, let's just say it was 2 minutes. Now, why do I say exploring your beliefs? Was there a belief that a woman would ever win Costa Kosciuszko? Possibly. Is that belief now shattered? Absolutely. Well, we thought it was going to happen like 2 weeks ago. So what's this mean for you? It means, what are your beliefs about your capability, your capacity as a runner, and also, the capacity of others as runners and what we are capable of, distance, speed, time, whatever you want, how long you can run for, is in like longevity. I'm thinking about great stuff like the 2-hour marathon, the 4-minute mile, all these things we never thought were possible that are now just, in our realm of possibility. But for you, I want you to start thinking about the beliefs that you have, such as, you know what, I'm not particularly fast as a runner, but I can just go all day, right? Yes, you know who I'm talking to. Okay. The other things could be something like, I'm just a mid-pack runner. You've heard me say that before. I'm just a mid-pack runner, right? These are beliefs that hold you back. Or I'm just a bit of a hack. I just run on the weekends or whatever. Maybe that's all you want to do. But maybe, I'm just going to challenge you and say maybe that's the phrasing that you use to kind of keep yourself safe from actually exploring what you're actually capable of. So part of mindset work is identifying these beliefs you have, saying I'm not that fast or I'm getting older, which means, there's always a which means. So a word like so or therefore means I'm getting older, and there's implied in that is, so that means I'm going to get slower. Or so that means I'm going to X, Y, Z, fill in the blanks. If you can catch these beliefs you have, I've run my fastest marathon, there's no way I could do that again. All these kind of things you can be on the lookout for to smash through and challenge and see if you can get faster. See if you can, as you get older and wiser as a runner, if you can increase your pace. See if you can go further than you thought. All of these things. And again, there's always a caveat. If you want to, right? I'm not trying to tell you how to live your life. You do you. But if you're using these phrases and they're putting a bit of a ceiling on your potential, they're possibly there to keep you safe. And that's for you to have a look at. All right, let's have a look. Anything can happen in a race, especially a long race. Even a short race. You're running a 5K or a 400 metre and you're coming second. Don't you settle there and think, oh, this is where I'm going to end up. I'm happy with this. That leader could trip over or take a wrong turn. Most likely not on a 400 metre track, but somewhere, something can happen to that lead runner. And what I've learned over the years, the front of the pack are struggling and battling and suffering as much as, and maybe more, as the back of the pack. So if you think that the lead's not going to change or, this is how it's going to be, anything can happen in a race. So execute the plan that you have in place. That's going to be on our next point. Make sure you have a plan for how you're going to approach the race. If you've ever run with me or you've learned how I approach a race, every running session, I start with two things, intention and gratitude. Right, my intention today was to go out easy and then come back hard. So simple, right? It was an out and back run. Go out easy, come back hard. It takes you 10 seconds to set an intention and gratitude. My gratitude was, thank you that I have the health, the time, and the motivation to do this today. So simple. Just find something to be grateful for. It'll expand your energy. It'll unlock something in you, and then set the intention of how you're going to go. Otherwise, it's okay to just go out there for just to see how you go, or a cruisy run. But even that is an intention. In your race, make sure you have a race plan to execute. The definition of a successful race can be whatever you make it, but mostly it's going to be executing your race plan. Whether that is to win, to PB, to enjoy it, to be the happiest person on the course, to pace at 4:30 for the first 10 kilometers and then come back at 4:20, or whatever it is. Have something in place, even if it's simple, like the energy you're going to bring. I'm just going to cruise this one, or I'm just going to, this is just a C race to get time on feet. That is a race plan. Or how you want to be at a certain point in the race. At the 21 kilometre mark of the marathon, I want to be feeling great. I want my heart rate to be this. I want my pacing to be this. I want my fueling to be this. Set a race plan, even if it's so simple. Give your brain something to target. Otherwise, it's going to find its own target, and it might be a target that you don't want, such as somebody else's race or comparison, which the brain will probably revert to if you haven't given it a target. Remember, some Buddhists use the analogy of the barrel of monkeys in your mind, and if they're running amok, the best way to settle them down is to give them something to look at or to focus on, and that's where they use the breath. You can use your breath. You can also use a race plan or a strategy. All right, a couple more. I'm going to keep this one nice and short today. The importance of team. Down there at Kosci, you cannot do that race without a team. Your support crew is your life. They pass you the drinks. They give you motivation. They dress up as funny to keep you. Speaking of Rama's crew, who dressed up in Woody from Toy Story outfits to give him a nice, motivational boost at the 100-kilometre mark. They provide that, and it's the same with any race you're going for. You need a team around you, whether that team is your coach and you, your coach and nutritionist and you, your coach and nutritionist, your massage girl, the person that looks after you at every set, the sauna work you do, the stretching, the mobility coach. I've mentioned massage. This is your team around you, your family, your friends, your running group. This is your team. Share it with them and lean on them. Ask them for help. This is something I'm still learning how to be better at. Ask people for help because they generally want to help you. I'm just going to say that. Let's move on to the next one. Pacing. There were two runners. I'm going to focus specifically on an amazing runner, Chris Bevan. Chris ran 2023 Kosciuszko, and he came back in 2024 so much wiser, so much more prepared, both in training. He could work with a great coach. In his mindset, he really dialed in his mindset, in his race planning, and in exploring what he's capable of. He went after a couple of races during the year, preparing for Kosciuszko, and he saw his potential. And that unlocked something in him that he started to see that he was capable of more than he thought he was. His pacing this year, in 2024, was so much better than 2023. Now, yes, that's because he had course knowledge, but it's because he learnt so much about himself in those 12 months. He was behind his 2023 pace at the 50 kilometre mark, at the 100 kilometre mark, at the 150 kilometre mark. He was still behind where he was the previous year. Yet, he finished with a 6-hour PB. Can you believe that? That is mind-blowing, right? For anybody. That just goes to show what a year of preparation, working on yourself, and all of these facets, race plan, mindset, coaching, pacing, nutrition. He did a lot of work on his nutrition. And, shout out to Lauren, XFit Dietitian on Instagram, for all the work that Lauren has done with a lot of runners to prepare them for this. Chris ran that race with a strong intention, and it looked like he was loving every single part of that race. He was immersed in it. He was happy. He was just loving it, and he was surrendering to the race. And a 6-hour PB for 5th position. Massive kudos to Chris. Another runner that comes to mind, Ramiro Lopez Pena. Rama ran a 5-hour PB on last year, again with so many of the elements that Chris took into his race as well. Working on mindset, working on training, crew, getting crew more experience, the crew to learn and know what he wants. So, putting all these things together, what does this mean for you? For your next race, for your next event, it doesn't have to be a race, whatever you're planning towards, build this race plan and think about all these things that I've talked about. Maybe just one of them. If you've got something out of challenging your beliefs about what you're capable of. Oh, I could do a half, but I could never do a 30K, right? Something like that. It could be simple as, could I? Or am I just saying that? Or would it be possible? Or what would happen if I did do that? What am I afraid of? Those kind of questions will help you challenge those beliefs. Thinking about how to train in a different way, or getting a coach to help you. Working on that mindset component, which I'm always going to bang on about, and having a plan, even if it's your intention for the race, and how you are going to approach it, and what energy you're going to bring to the race can be a simple mindset plan. Think about the going for your best race, like Robert Ormsby, Nick Bamford, and the runners like that who really go after it and have a crack. I am going to mention another runner before I say goodbye, and that's Nicole Lawler. So Nick DNF'd in 2022, was pretty devastated from her DNF. She withdrew at Dalgety, which was around about 149 kilometres into the race, and she couldn't finish. She came back in 2024 for redemption and to get her Costa Kosci finish and to get her a Kubra. And, I'm so pleased to see Nicole finish and get the finish that she wanted. So if you've had a setback, if you've had a DNF and something's happened and you haven't had the finish or you haven't had the result that you wanted for some reason, come back. Do it again. It sometimes can be even more daunting, but take the lessons from that DNF. There's something in that DNF for you to learn from, and you can apply it in your next race, or you can do that race again and overcome what stopped you last time, just like Nicole Lawler did. Nick, huge hats off to you for coming back for the way you did. And I know that a Kubra hat, just for those who don't know, the Kubra hat is the trophy for the race. It's a very traditional hat. I know how sweet that must be sitting on your shelf at home or on your wall at home, because you came back and you got that finish that you so deserved and you worked so well for it. So massive kudos to you, and it was so good to see you get that finish. All right, I hope you got something out of this episode. Again, all this stuff is for you to learn from. If you just take one concept from this and apply it to your training, to your racing, or even your life, I'm sure you'll find an improvement, whether that be faster, fitter or happier or whatever. Just more content and more enjoying your running. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you at the next episode.
Thanks for listening to the Mindset for Runners podcast. I hope you got something practical and useful out of this podcast, or something inspiring to help you get out for your next run. If you have a question about Mindset for Runners or athletes in general, please email me at robmason.run@gmail.com and I'll answer your question on an upcoming podcast. And if there's anybody you know who could benefit from the information I share in this podcast, please share it with them. See you next time.